What is up, my devious little hobgoblins? A while back, I made a video on Five Nights at Wario's, and a lot of you really liked it. So much so that it is one of the most popular videos on this channel. I appreciate it. A lot of you have been asking me to cover the second game in the series, so as a token of my appreciation, I figured, why not? So sit back and listen to me, a 20-year-old grown adult, talk about a PNG game. Quick small note before we start, I recommend you watch the first video, not that you won't understand this one if you don't, but just the way that I talk about this game will reference things that I talked about in my last video, so I just recommend you go watch it, but you do not have to. Five Nights at Wario's 2, similar to Five Nights at Wario's 1, who would have thought, begins with a cutscene. Our character is walking through the woods towards his new job at WarioWare Inc. So right off the bat, I don't think that this company is the same company from Wario's 1. Upon loading in, we're greeted to our new office. I will say, this office looks marginally better than the previous one. I can actually tell what everything in this office is, so that's a plus. This time, we also have a second room that has a generator inside that we will need to use to prevent us from dying. I failed to mention this in my last Wario video, but your power drains so fast in the first game, it's not even funny. So I appreciate this addition. We also, again, have our cameras as usual. This game, however, introduces a mechanic that I actually think is really cool. Rather than having lights to see our doorways, instead we're working in a thunderstorm, and every once in a while lightning will strike, which lights up the entrances to our office for a brief moment. I think this addition is really cool and super unique. Night 1, like the first game, only has Wario and Waluigi active. The generator behind you acts as a music box the whole time, but the back room also serves another purpose. It also acts like a mask from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. There are no doors in this game. Characters will make their way to your office and come inside to attack you. When they attack, you need to quickly duck into the back room and make no noise. This means that while you're hiding from a character that's attacking, you cannot fill your generator until they leave. I think it's super interesting how they combined both of these mechanics in the same way. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, I always thought that seeing the warning symbol telling you the music box was going to run out was really frustrating more than tense. However, in this game, when you're tight on time to fill the generator and you have to hide, you have to sit there and watch it go down, knowing that you could technically fill it. I feel like this addition actually makes the same exact situation feel more tense than the original. Night 1 isn't too difficult, so let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a brand new character, Toad. Toad works as the Foxy character that the first game should have had. On this night, the power to the lights in the tool room stopped working, meaning that we can no longer use the cameras to see what's there. Kind of. When the lightning strikes, that camera is still illuminated for a small amount of time like our doorways. This room is where Toad is. Like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, Toad has multiple camera states. Once he disappears from the camera, you need to hide in the back room. You'll know it's safe to come back when you see this. As unscary as Toad looks, I think the idea of him peering in at you is actually pretty frightening. Something I've noted about Toad is that when he attacks, you don't need to be quiet. Even if he's peeking into the back room, you're still free to charge up the generator, which can definitely be a large help on those later nights. It's also really easy to tell when he's charging, as intense music will start to play before he arrives. Aside from Toad, Night 2 is all the same. I think Toad adds an extra level of difficulty to this game that the first one desperately needed, and I appreciate the successful attempt at doing so. Night 3 adds 2 new characters. The first is Mario. Back from the first game, Mario will appear in your back room. He will slowly rise from the bottom of the screen. If you stay in the back room for too long, he'll kill you. Super simple mechanic, but since every night the generator goes down faster and faster, you'll end up finding yourself needing to stay back there longer, meaning in later nights, Mario will become a real threat. The other character this night adds is Bowser. Bowser works just like Wario and Waluigi, the only difference is he attacks from the window rather than the door. When he enters your office, all you need to do is hide in the back room. Between these two, I think Mario is the more interesting character because, no fucking shit, his mechanic is actually unique. Night 4 adds another character from the first game, Peach. I'm not going to spend too long on this night because there's not a whole lot to note. Peach works exactly the same as Wario, Waluigi, and Bowser. She moves around the cameras and will attack from the door. When she does, just hide in the back room and don't make noise until she leaves. Simple and boring, I'm having an aneurysm. But this is a super early fan game, so for what it's worth, this game was technically revolutionary for its time. There aren't any new characters on night 5, however, Mario does get an upgrade. Now, alongside being in the back room, keeping you from staying there for too long like in the first game, he'll also be in your main office and move through 3 different states before standing in your room. When he does, you'll have to hide in the back room. In all honesty, I think this is pretty stupid when you look at it logically for a second. I know you shouldn't do that in FNAF games, but fuck you, I'm gonna do it. Mario is already in the back room, and he clearly knows that you hide there. He even forces you to not hide there for too long. But now you have to hide from him. And I'm supposed to pretend like that makes any sense at all. I could keep complaining, but we have 2 more nights of this game to get through. After beating night 5, a small cutscene plays. WarioWare got a call from an unknown source, and apparently we have to go in for another night. An end screen shows, again with another question mark, but this time Mario can be seen in the corner for an unknown reason. Sorry not sorry if that startled you. Night 6 adds nothing, it just makes the characters more difficult. As my good friend Blue Links would say, boo! Night 7, however, does add something. I bet you will never in a million years guess what it is. Five Nights at Wario's 2 breaks new grounds and adds another fucking music box. Why? Why do we need another music box? It makes no sense. This has to be one of the laziest bits out of any game ever released to this planet. No, this fucking solar system. Sorry. I lost my temper. That's the only new thing that's added to this night. The characters are harder again, surprise, surprise. After beating night 7, we get a screen showing a newspaper, which I will get into later when we discuss the lore that was released in this game. Five Nights at Wario's 2 is much better than the first one, improved graphics, and semi-improved game mechanics. As much as I hate the addition of a second music box, at least this time we're required to use the cameras. Moving on to the story that this game gives us. Again, I'll be going over the contents of the phone call and trying to extract as much information as I can from them. On night 1, we're introduced to the new phone guy, who happens to be voiced by Dawko. We're told that in this game, rather than working at a factory again, we're working at a place called WarioWare Inc. This business specializes in making video games. I'm not entirely sure why a place like this would need a night guard, but let's try not to think realistically here. Dawko explains how employees claim to be seeing figures. He explains that he himself has dealt with hauntings before and that it wasn't fun. I want you to put this small comment into the back of your mind. There's not a whole lot of info given on night 2. Dawko explains to us that entities move faster in the dark. I feel like this implies that the phone guy knows exactly what it is that we're dealing with. Night 3, however, we get some juicy lore drops. Dawko tells us that the building we're in caught fire years ago, and that the only casualty was a large dragon-like creature. Obviously, this is referring to Bowser. Bowser was buried under our office, and we're told that after this fire, Wario, the man who started the WarioWare company, started up a fast food factory. This is huge. This lets us know at what point in the timeline we're in. Where we're at, Wario has already made the fast food factory, and I feel it's safe to assume that the events of the first game have already taken place. If I had to make an early assumption, I'm going to guess that the phone guy's hauntings were at the fast food factory, and I'm going to take the guess that he is the one that we played as in the last game, but that could be incorrect. That's just what I'm going with for now. On night 4, my theory starts to seem more believable. Phone guy tells us he's been in our position before. He said he worked 6 nights before the place he worked in got shut down for events. This lines up perfectly with the events of Five Nights at Wario's 1, as we played through 6 canonical nights before the main game ended. Near the end of the call, he also stated that it's always important to have a night guard on the first week. I truthfully have no idea why he said this. Why would only the first week be an important time to have a night guard? Maybe the first week of opening makes the spirits of the workers upset because they want what they started to remain dormant after they passed? I have no fucking idea. But hopefully we'll be able to get that question answered. Night 5 has no lore drops, but we do start noticing something a bit odd about the phone guy. In this phone call, he seems less friendly and slightly less focused. He has a lot more ums in his speech, and this phone call is a lot shorter than the others. He seems upset that we've made it to the end of the week and that we get to relax on the weekend. And instead of the friendly goodbyes and good lucks that we've been used to on the previous nights, this time we're greeted with just a cold goodbye. Something is definitely wrong with him. I'm just not sure what yet. At the end of night 5, a screen full of text tells us that a mysterious call was made, a call with a request. We're not told what the request is, but this call is seemingly the reason why we had to go in for a 6th night. On night 6, we get another phone call from Dawko. The character's name isn't Dawko, by the way. I just think Dawko's voice acting is really funny and kind of bad, so I'm just calling the phone guy by the voice actor's name. I'm just a little silly, some could say, a little goofy, a little diabolical. Anyways, he reveals that the phone call was made by him. He doesn't give a reason as to why, but he did say that something tonight made them in need of a night guard. He tells us that he wants us to play a game with them. When I first heard this, I was a little confused, but I'm pretty sure he's implying that he is one of the characters that we're fighting off, but I'm not sure which one he would be. The only new characters are Toad and Bowser, but I don't see why either of those would make sense. He reiterates that he's gone through this too at a different location many years ago, and that now it's our turn. I still get the feeling that he was the security guard from the first game, but now with the information that he might be one of the characters coming after us, that theory starts to crack. He tells us that he's locked the doors to the building and will be forcing us to stay here for the night tomorrow as well. This night is also the night where we learn our character's name, that being Thomas. Clearly, whoever the phone guy is must know us. We just have to figure out how. Night 7 is the final main night of the game, and there's plenty of interesting information in the phone call. Phone guy tells us that someone has been waiting for us, before seemingly passing the phone to them. Then we hear some tangled mess of sound. Reversing it reveals the following. Quote, "It's time to end you. You'll play the looping game with no ends. You cannot hide. We will find you. We will locate you. We will do the same thing to you as we did to him. Soon you will be one of us. You cannot run anymore. Thomas Taylor." End quote. Alright, a few things to unpack here. First of all, I have no idea who this could be talking to us. I feel like it'd make most sense for it to be Wario, but I could be wrong. The voice says they will do the same thing to us as they did to him. I'm not sure who him could be either. My first guess was the phone guy, Dawko, and that would make sense considering the voice said that we would become one of them, just like the phone guy seems to be one of them. After completing night 7, we're greeted with the newspaper clipping I mentioned earlier, which reads, WarioWare Inc., owner on the run. Yesterday, the owner of WarioWare Inc. escaped as the police tried to bring him to the station. Quote, "I heard someone screaming from the factory, so I called the police," end quote, says witness Matt Parker. The police arrived shortly after, only to be met by a man storming out of WarioWare Inc., with signs of scars in his face. As he ran, he dropped the phone he was carrying that contained a bloody hand mark. The police immediately followed his footsteps, trying to catch up with him. Shortly after, the newly hired Thomas Taylor came out of the factory too, claiming he had been locked inside the building for 24 hours. The police continued their search the whole night. The man has yet to be found. So, from this clipping, we know that the phone guy is the owner of WarioWare Inc. I actually have an idea of who he could be. If you haven't noticed, Luigi is absent from this game. He is never seen. I get the idea that the phone guy could be Luigi, But if that's the case, that throws the idea of the phone guy being the security guard from the first game out the window, because obviously Luigi was an active character in that game. By the way, I'm very aware that there's a video made by the creator of the Wario games going over all the lore. I just think it's much more fun to try to figure it out myself as I go along. But that's the end of Five Nights at Wario's 2, as I can tell. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments below, and if you think it's better than the first one, which should be a unanimous yes, by the way. In the last video, I asked you all what your favorite mechanic from any Five Nights at Freddy's or Five Nights at Freddy's fan game was, and why. My favorite comment is this one by Joker of Spades. Congratulations on the second favorite comment, by the way. They chose Dee Dee from Ultimate Custom Night, which threw me off at first, but after listening to what they had to say, they explained that they like Dee Dee because out of nowhere Dee Dee will appear, adding a random character, and it will be up to you to figure out who it is fast enough to be able to begin dealing with them, while also dealing with the chaos of every other animatronic. And that actually made me think, and I kind of agree, it's a really cool mechanic, and I think more things should be done like that in future FNAF games. The question of this video is, would you like to see me cover another FNAF series or FNAF fan game series from start to finish, and if so, which one would you like to see? With the question of the video being asked, I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!